Definitely can be sort of problematic because I think for a long time the movies there was a misunderstanding about what they were and what they were doing. People just kind of saw the surface elements of blaxploitation movies and kind of ran with it and said, "Oh man, it's all about these crazy afros, the bad production values, the bell bottoms, all of the crazy jive talk. Oh, that's so funny." I mean, yes, I would say that probably about 3/4 of the movies aren't that great, to be honest. They're kind of capitalizing off the successes of the earlier ones. But you watch the earlier ones, Coffee, The Mac, Superfly. They're just they pretty much stand up to anything that was being created at the time. I think, particularly Superfly, and the Mac, the story that was being told. I don't think there's anything humorous about it. And one said that this was like an early time when black people were creating stories of their own and seeing themselves as heroes and protagonists in stories. So there would be kind of a little stumbling, a little, they didn't have quite the financing, so there would be kind of baby steps toward what we see now and the way we wanted to see ourselves presented ultimately. So to kind of pick on that 40 years hence, in sort of an ironic hipster way, like, oh, that's so funny, is really unfair and really a slight to ourselves to do that. But if you look at the energy and the creativity and just I guess everything that was coming out of that time, you see a lot to be respected and a lot to be appreciated. And that's what I'm trying to capture with World of Hurt, and say that you look at 1950s movies, people don't, I mean, the only movie that I can think of that makes fun of film noir is that Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. People don't make fun of, make humorous World War II movies or television shows except for, Hogan's Heroes. So this is an era that was been left alone, like some sort of no man's land for Black America. We're supposed to completely throw that in a memory hole or make fun of it, when this was us at a creative peak, or a creative, moving up that creative summit. And if we just kind of drop a bit of our history or make fun of that bit of history, that doesn't do any service to ourselves. It does a disservice to us. The blaxploitation is more of a film movement than a genre. It encompassed everything from black westerns to black action movies to black comedies to black dramas to black family stories. It encompassed a whole range, but it was a time when you had black creators in front of the camera, behind the camera on many occasions but particularly in front of the cameras as protagonists, as the lead stories. They weren't like butlers or maids or slaves or anything. They were the ones driving the story. They were the ones, and these were their stories of their lives, of the adventures that they lived. And they if they were adventure stories, of course they were going to take the trappings of an adventure story. But they reflected black attitude, black sensibilities at the time and of the era. And most of them were done with the best intentions of the creators and the best intention of all those involved. Yes, there was a monetary aspect. Yes, there was financial gain to be had from them. And yes, there are people who came in to kind of cash in on it quickly. But it is basically about reflecting, this is our time in history. This is us as we would like to see ourselves in Hollywood, And it started a maturation. People, then it was these gritty crime adventures because and westerns and things, because that's what they grew up on. And if you kind of grow up on something, you want to kind of do that too. And then, but you want to bring your own flavor to it, your own feeling to it, and that's what they did. And now we see times. I mean, people might rag on Tyler Perry, but he's telling more adult stories of black middle class. This is how far we've come. We're no longer focusing so much on living in the street and drug stories. We're talking about grown people living adult lives. And there may be some soap opera melodramatic moments to it, but that's part of the growing pains too. And I'm sure in 10, 20 years from now we'll see even more mainstream sort of stories featuring black people. And you had the recent TV show Undercover, the black couple as spies, sort of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Unfortunately, it didn't make it. Maybe the market wasn't ready to support that at that time. But the blaxploitation, as we saw in the 1970s, kind of paved a way and kind of opened a couple doors closed, but some people were already through that door, and they kept going, and they kind of inspired future filmmakers and future comic artists, future musicians. and to kind of incorporate that in, and it hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't gone anywhere. People might not give it much thought, but it's kind of infused in the culture. But once you do look at it, I just hope people look at it from the perspective of what it was, and not what they kind of think it is, or not what it's been sold as. It's not always funny, not always serious, but it's always heartfelt, I think.